What's going on here? I had been away for about 2 months from my child's birth, and our house was an absolute mess when I returned. As I exclaimed in shock, Alfred scoffed at me. "Work for the time you took off," he said haughtily. "If you have a problem, let's get divorced." As I stood speechless, Alfred wore a smug expression. Soon, he dramatically displayed the divorce papers he was holding. "I'm off for happy hour now, so you better clean this up without even thinking of holding our baby," he declared, walking out. A volcanic rage boiled within me towards him. I will never forgive him. Who needs a husband like this? Not me, I thought to myself. My name is Samantha. At 37, I married Alfred, who is a year younger than me, and got pregnant 2 years later. We both worked at the same company, but my morning sickness was so bad that I had to frequently take time off. That's when Alfred started acting weird. Both of us had lived alone for a long time, so we were both capable of doing household chores. We didn't have any specific division of labor and managed our lives quite well. However, since I started taking time off, Alfred became visibly grumpy and began to demand that I do chores even when I was bedridden with morning sickness. "Why isn't dinner ready? Why haven't you folded the laundry? You're not even working," he would say. On top of dealing with nausea and fatigue, I now had to deal with Alfred's verbal abuse. "He never used to be like this. Why are you taking time off for morning sickness? It's making things awkward for me at work. I've never heard of anyone doing that. Remember Mabel, who just came back from maternity leave? Apparently, she never had any trouble with morning sickness," he complained. But even hearing that, it's not like I wanted to take time off. Morning sickness affects everyone differently. Some have it for their first child, but not the second. It varies from one pregnancy to the next. I feel bad that I can't cook or do laundry right now, but it's not like I'm slacking off. Please understand that I managed to say, lifting my heavy body. Alfred just glared at me. Must be nice being the pregnant lady and getting away with it. At least you could have made some rice. That's not too much to ask, he said. His words pierced my heart. I couldn't stand the smell of cooking rice since my morning sickness began. It would make me feel nauseous. I had already explained this to Alfred, and still I couldn't come to terms with how he changed so suddenly. Right now I'm involved in a major project at work. I don't want to take time off if I can avoid it, but I try to get some work done at home, but the nausea and fatigue get in the way. I'm grateful for our baby, but it's tough managing work and daily life. Experiencing pregnancy for the first time nearing 40 was physically and emotionally draining. I just wanted Alfred to understand and help with chores, but he acted the exact opposite of what I hoped for. It might be true that other women at work don't take time off during their pregnancy, but I wish he'd listen to me, his wife, first. Once my morning sickness subsides, we can return to how we used to be. I decided to focus on that hope. But that hope was shattered one day. Alfred said, "I talked to Nolan the other day. He's never lifted a finger at home. It makes me realize how great of a husband I've been." "It's always been about you, Samantha. You need to grow up now that you're becoming a mom." Nolan is the husband of our colleague Mabel. They're the poster couple at work. I've heard numerous stories about how they became a couple and their ups and downs. They're well regarded and trusted. Nolan never does chores. I'd love to hear the truth someday. Yet Alfred kept comparing himself to Nolan and piling chores on me. Will I ever have a good relationship with Alfred once our child is born? I spent my days tossed by these emotions. As my due date approached, I decided to give birth at a clinic near my parents' house. A few weeks after moving to my parents, I gave birth to a beautiful girl. Seeing our baby, all the pain and fear disappeared. Alfred changed back to being a caring husband and a loving father. He would feed the baby, change her diapers, and even serve tea. My mom praised him, saying, "Thank you, Alfred, for coming even on weekdays." Samantha, show some gratitude. Watching Alfred care for our child, my mom was very impressed, though I had mixed feelings. I had to admit he was stepping up. Maybe holding our child changed Alfred. I thanked him, saying, "Thank you, Alfred. I know you're tired from work. Don't overdo it, okay?" He smiled and replied, "She's our child. It's natural for me to care for her. You rest up, Samantha." He really was back to his old self. A wave of happiness washed over me, and I was looking forward to our life together. After a month-long checkup at the clinic, we planned to return to our apartment. With our daughter the next day. Mom looked a bit sad and said, "You could have stayed a bit longer." But Alfred had repeatedly asked me to come home early. After a month-long checkup at the clinic, we were excited to start our life together as a family. I opened the door to our apartment, but what I found was beyond belief. Clothes were strewn everywhere in the living room, dishes were piled up in the sink, and the brand new baby crib was still in its box. "What is this?" I cried out in shock. Alfred appeared, laughing mockingly. "Finally, you're back. Do you know how hard it was without you? Make up for your absence and get to work. That's why I wanted you back early. If you have a problem, let's divorce." He spread out the divorce papers right in front of me, making sure I could see them clearly. Alfred's section was already filled out. I couldn't believe that my own husband could be like this. I was left speechless. I had thought he had changed. Our daughter had transformed him. How wrong I was. Without uttering a word, Alfred headed for the door. "I'm off for happy hour. If you don't want a divorce, better clean up." With a condescending tone, Alfred walked out, not even trying to hold our daughter or giving her a fleeting glance. At that moment, everything became clear to me. His behavior at my parents' house had been an act to get me to come home sooner. I had hoped that one day Alfred would return to being his old self. I believed that as I went through childbirth, but I can't anymore. Holding back the overwhelming anger, I made a decision. I will never forgive that man. Divorce, bring it on. I'll be the one to leave him. Once I made up my mind, I acted swiftly. I signed the divorce papers he handed me and immediately submitted them to the city office. After they were successfully processed, I packed my belongings and got into the car. "I'm coming back," I texted Mom as I headed home. "Samantha, what happened?" Mom was worried as I arrived. I told her everything, the history and how Alfred treated me after coming home. She was in disbelief that Alfred did that. Seeing her shocked, my heart ached. She had only seen the good in Alfred. I couldn't blame her. I was never good with relationships, and at 30, I still had no partner. They probably worried if I'd ever marry. They were overjoyed when I introduced Alfred, so I never told them about our marital issues. I had tried so hard to put their minds at ease, not wanting to burden them with more worries. But right now, I couldn't concern myself with what my parents thought. I had reached my breaking point. "I'm sorry, Mom, but I can't raise our child with a man like that. I've already filed the divorce papers." "What?" So suddenly? "Don't you think it's too soon? Maybe you should think it over after calming down." Upon hearing the word divorce, Mom was visibly shaken. She was strongly opposed to the idea, but my determination remained steadfast. "Listen, Stella, Samantha isn't a child anymore. She's a grown woman and a mother. If she's made up her mind, we should support her decision." I knew it couldn't have been easy for him. The deep furrows in his brow said it all, but he chose to respect my decision, and gratitude welled up in me. Hearing Dad's words, Mom went silent for a bit. After an awkward pause, she nodded. "All right, accepting my choice?" Late that night, as I was awakened by my daughter's cries, my phone buzzed. Alfred's name lit up the screen. Ignoring his call, I changed my daughter's diaper and began nursing her. After putting her to bed, I checked my phone again. It was flooded with missed calls and texts from him. "Where are you? Not cleaning again? Slacking off, huh? I'll teach you a lesson. Answer me. If you don't come back now, we're seriously getting a divorce." Despite his wife suddenly leaving, his condescending attitude persisted. Reading his messages, my disdain for Alfred grew even stronger. "I've already submitted the divorce papers." I sent just that text and nothing more. The next morning, more calls came in, but I didn't answer. If I had, I was sure he'd just hurl insults at me. The texts he sent were, as expected, filled with harsh words directed at me. A week later, the tone of Alfred's messages changed. "Can we talk? Please respond." Among the texts from him, there was a message from Nolan. "I'm sorry, my messages may have led Alfred astray, especially during such a challenging time for you. I learned from a call with Mabel what had transpired. Apparently, when word of our divorce got out at the company, Alfred tried to paint me as the villain. It's my lazy wife who's at fault, right, Nolan? You've never helped with chores at home, right? It's wrong for men to do housework. Alfred had hoped to rally Nolan to his side with those comments. However, Nolan responded with clear disgust, reprimanding Alfred. I don't believe housework is just a woman's job. Couples should cooperate. That's why I never said I helped. It doesn't mean I don't do it. Don't twist my words to fit your narrative. Alfred, who had been so sure of himself, stood stunned upon hearing the truth. Other colleagues were present, and now rumors about Alfred's behavior spread rapidly. Unable to handle the mounting pressure, he likely reached out to me for support. But it wasn't about Nolan. Alfred had changed, and not for the better. He demanded that I do housework, even when I was weakened from morning sickness, made me clean and do laundry when I couldn't move freely due to my growing belly, and commanded me to clean our messy home right after I came back from childbirth. No matter how much he apologized now, my feelings would not waver. I decided to completely ignore him, but Alfred wouldn't give up. One weekend morning, he showed up at my parents' home. When I opened the door, he began apologizing profusely. I'm sorry, it was my fault. Please give us another chance. Seeing him so desperately apologize, I was taken aback. This was the man who had looked down on me for nearly a year. When I remained silent, Alfred continued. Nolan corrected me. It's not that he never helps with housework, but he sees it as a given, not something he helps with. I misunderstood and took it out on you, Samantha. But from now on, I promise I'll change. I'll do my part in housework and child rearing. Let's try again. You're the liar here. I immediately pointed it out, and Alfred blurted out, "What?" in a dumbfounded tone. I was deeply exasperated by my poor judgment in choosing him as a partner. There's no way I could ever reconcile with such a man. I glared at Alfred and sternly said, "You know, I got a message from Nolan and Mabel, so I've known from the start that you misunderstood what Nolan said. But the thing is, you conveniently interpreted it to push all the household chores onto me. That's all on you, isn't it? Can you not act like Nolan misled you? You're just too selfish." At my words, Alfred looked shaken, but it seemed he still hadn't given up. "I'm sorry, it was my fault for misinterpreting. Please, no matter what you say, my feelings won't change. Just leave now." I cut off Alfred's words and coldly sent him away. This time, Alfred clung to my arm in desperation. "Please hear me out. Things are tough at work now. Nolan's family looks down on me and everyone else is cold. If we can mend our relationship, maybe they'll change their minds." "I see. So that's what it is. This man, after all, is just that kind of guy, only thinking of himself. A truly despicable man. You're always thinking about yourself. Grow up. Face the consequences of your actions." I forcefully shook off his grip. He collapsed to his knees, burying his face in his hands. In the end, my father had to escort him out. A year passed. My daughter started attending daycare, and my maternity leave ended. The idea of working with Alfred again made me uneasy. However, I wasn't willing to let go of what I had built for his sake. When I returned, everyone welcomed me warmly. At that point, I came to a shocking realization. It turns out Alfred had left the company more than half a year ago. Apparently, he couldn't stand the looks he got and decided to leave. Later, he sought refuge at his parents' home, but his older brother's family was already living there, making things uncomfortable. Given his age, he struggled to find another job. Now he's responsible for all the household chores at his parents' house. As for me, I'm working hard to regain the skills I lost during maternity leave. With my parents' support, I'm managing both work and childcare. I'll continue to give my all every day for my daughter,